The History of the Philippines, A Journey Through Time. Did you know that the Philippines, with over 7,000 islands, has one of the most diverse cultures and histories in Southeast Asia? But its history goes far beyond the colonial era that we often hear about. In this video, we dive deep into the fascinating history of the Philippines, from the first settlements and ancient kingdoms to the colonial period and the modern nation we know today. Stay tuned to find out how the Philippines became the country it is today. Early history and pre-colonial period. The first traces of human settlement in the Philippines date back to around 30,000 years ago, when the Negritos, the first known inhabitants, lived in remote areas of the islands. These early peoples lived mostly in isolation, with a culture based on hunting, gathering, and a spiritual connection to nature. However, the real cultural development of the Philippines began with the arrival of the Austronesians around 5000 BCE. These seafaring nations brought new technologies such as boat building and trade with neighboring regions, including Southeast Asia, China, and the Pacific Islands. The Philippines became a hub in the regional trade network, maintaining close connections with China, India, and the Arab world, as evidenced by archaeological finds of Chinese porcelain and Indian artifacts. During this period, the first major Philippine kingdoms, such as Tondo and Butuan, emerged, playing significant cultural and political roles. These kingdoms were known for their organization and trade activities, making them key players in the region. Spanish colonial period, 1521 to 1898. In 1519, the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan set sail westward on behalf of the Spanish king and reached the Philippines in 1521. This marked the beginning of more than 300 years of Spanish colonial rule. Magellan landed on the island of Cebu and attempted to convert the locals to Christianity, but his journey ended abruptly when he was killed in a conflict with the natives in 1521. However, this was not the end of Spanish influence. Starting in 1565 with the establishment of the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu, Spanish colonization gained momentum. The Philippines became part of the vast Spanish colonial empire and played a central role in trans-Pacific trade. Manila became an important trade center and a melting pot of Spanish, Chinese, indigenous, and other Asian cultures. Despite being colonized by Spain, the Filipinos continuously resisted. Some significant uprisings, such as the Dagohoy Rebellion that took place in 1744 until 1829, which lasted nearly 100 years, and the Revolt of the Katipunan, a revolutionary movement against Spanish rule, demonstrate the deeply rooted resistance against the colonial power. The Philippine Revolution of 1896, led by figures like Andres Bonifacio and Emilio Aguinaldo, ultimately resulted in the declaration of Philippine independence from Spain in 1898. But this was not the end of colonization. American and Japanese occupation. After the Spanish-American War in 1898, in which the United States defeated Spain, the Philippines was handed over to the U.S. under the Treaty of Paris. This transfer led to a new chapter in history, marked by conflicts and political changes. The Philippine-American War, 1899 to 1902, broke out as Filipinos demanded independence from the U.S. Despite fierce resistance, the Americans prevailed and began to colonize the country. Under American rule, the Philippines underwent profound changes. The U.S. introduced Western education systems and modern infrastructure, such as railroads and roads, connecting the country. However, Filipino culture and social life were also heavily influenced by the American presence. World War II brought another dark chapter when Japan occupied the Philippines in 1941. The resistance against Japanese occupation was immense, leading to great losses, but also acts of heroism, such as the Bataan Death March and the efforts of guerrilla groups. After the end of World War II and Japan's surrender in 1945, the Philippines officially gained independence from the U.S. in 1946. Modern Philippines. After gaining independence, the Philippines began to carve its own path, but faced many challenges. The political landscape was marked by corruption, military dictatorships, and conflicts. One significant event was the martial law imposed by Ferdinand Marcos in the 1970s, which led to political repression and human rights violations. In 1986, the EDSA revolution led to the overthrow of Marcos and the restoration of democracy. Since then, the Philippines has evolved in many ways, but social and political challenges remain. Today, the Philippines is one of the most dynamic economies in Asia and an important geopolitical nation in the region. However, the roots of this modern state run deep, from its early cultures to the dramatic events of the colonial and wartime years. This was a brief overview of the fascinating history of the Philippines. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting historical insights. Which event or person from Philippine history do you find most interesting? Let us know in the comments, and let's discuss. See you next time on ThusiTube, where history comes to life.